My name is Seraphina, the masked lady. I was once human. Since then, I have lived many lives. I have been loved and reviled, adored and despised, been the child of a poor prostitute and a courtesan revered by thousands. When I was a child, a stranger with no face offered me the ability to move between the worlds. Since then, my every death has led to a new life. I once had a true love. He was ripped away from me when I was murdered in the 18th century. I search for him still. In the meantime, I walk in the shadows behind the universe, visiting realms both exquisite and terrible and bringing back stories and rhymes to amaze the mind and enchant the ear. Through my YouTube channel, I send the stories out into the world, hoping that my true love will hear them and reply. Hoping, if he does not, that I will find in the other souls who listen kindred spirits to help ease the pain. What of you, stranger? Did you come here tonight seeking a mystery? Do you hunger for a spark of excitement, for the dark thrill of fear? Will you listen as my tales unfold, knowing that some may very well take on lives of their own? Consider, stranger, whether you have the courage to walk between the worlds with Seraphina, the masked lady. Good evening, my delicious darlings. How are you today? Myself, I've got a little bit of the January blues. From October to December, I fly high as my favorite festivals race by, but I've never quite gotten the hang of the year's first month. It must be too long since my last visit to Norway. Somehow, the people there can turn dark and cold into an opportunity for coziness and comfort. What do you do to soften the grayness of January? I would love to hear from you. While you are busy typing your advice, please join me for 4 poems. Too short, too long, all spooky. I hope you enjoy them. I hide under the covers. I hide under the covers where the monsters cannot see. I hide under the covers because I have to believe that what is evil cannot breach the blanket over my head, the space within a haven from the thing beneath my bed. I hide under the covers and pretend I cannot hear the creak of the opening door, the footsteps coming near, the breath that waits beside my bed, the thing that hopes to see a single chink in my frail shield, the smallest part of me. I hide beneath the covers even when the bedside light that stood as a guard beside me through many a cold night begins to flicker and to fail, the shadows rushing in. I stay, although I hear the thing laugh, almost feel its grin. I hide under the covers still because I do not dare to raise my head and face the dread creature that's waiting there. Instead, I count my heartbeats as I pray I'll see the sun until it rips the covers off and then run, 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 run. Wings of night. We ride upon the wings of night. Our domain is the stars. We know we cause more terror than old monsters strange and scarred. And yet we weave our graceful dance, not seeking to do harm, but only to feast on the beasts that fly on updrafts warm. We circle around crackling campfires, darting between flames. We squeak with joy at our carouse. Have you yet guessed our names? No feathers grow upon our wings, but they are velvet soft, overlaid with traceries of veins. They keep us all aloft, making us princes of the dark. Yes, I can tell you that the being speaking is the most inestimable bat. Don't be afraid on Halloween should you chance to see me. I promise that I will not seek to cause your throat to bleed. We bats are fair and gentle things and no wrong wish to do. Sadly, we can't say the same of the monster behind you. The Crooked House. The crooked house stands in the country down a crooked lane. It stood there 90 years or more, in the sunshine and rain. Within, not a single wall, shelf or floorboard stands upright. No doorway stands up tall. They all lean to the left or right. Every last room slopes side to side, floors canted, wobbling walls, as if it was created solely to provoke great falls. What architect created it? No one in town can tell, but the kids at the junior school call it the gate to hell. The windows of the crooked house tilt down like squinting eyes, as if an entity is using them as a disguise. The roof is knobbed, bumped, and carbunkled, hanging over trees. It looks leprous and sickened as if swollen by disease, while all around it lies dead earth. There, the grass will not grow. Birds will not shelter in its eaves, even in heavy snow. No living thing goes gladly to the dark house's domain. Not even homeless people shelter there from falling rain. The crooked house has not been lived in for 50 long years. So what is it that causes the townsfolk's terrible fears? I'll tell the tale, but I must beg you, do not ever go down the trail to the crooked house beneath the moonlight's glow. The crooked house has taken women, children, and old men. I would never forgive myself if it happened again. The man who built the crooked house was once like you and me. He had parents, a job, and friends. He had his hopes and dreams. His best dream was of Lila Bell, the beauty of the town. She was poor, but she looked better in a white cotton gown than the richest of ladies in jewels and fur and lace. Lila's hair was as black as night, and in her heart-shaped face shone glinting eyes of violet blue, so beautiful and kind. They reflected just who she was, her clarity of mind, the kindness and gentleness that she showed to all around. In all the world, there was no more tender heart to be found, and Carter of Covington loved her with all of his heart. He told her if she married him that they would never part. Lila Bell returned Carter's love, though others were surprised that such an exceptional girl would ever turn her eyes to a simple man like Carter, who had only some land, with timber and space for a house. They could not understand why she, who could call dukes and princes with a single glance, would rather, with the almost pauper Carter, take her chance. But chance she did. Soon, the young pair agreed they would be wed. The night before the service, Lila Bell lay in her bed, imagining her future happiness, a family, in the house that Carter would build for her blue eyes only. Her dress was laid out, as were her veil and her headpiece, too. She had her new thing, a rich brooch, and something old and blue. All was arranged for the morning to be the happiest day since ever man and woman came to church as two to pray. What Lila Bell could not have known was, while she slept, a man who should have been her comforter was enacting a plan that would leave Carter with a mind and soul cold as a stone, and Lila Bell, while still a maid, buried in earth alone. Lila's father was an old man. He was poor, cruel, and proud. When Lila had become engaged, he'd said nothing aloud, but took her hand in his and said that he could understand how love could prompt her heart to choose an unworthy young man, and so he'd not stand in her way if she wished to be wed, but would delight, dance, and rejoice with the couple instead. Sadly, he had a secret plan. He would not see the girl throw herself away when others could offer her the world. He set his friends to meet Carter when he was on his way back from the church where he'd called in to give thanks and to pray. He told the men to threaten Carter, knock him to the ground, and do all that they had to do to force him out of town. But the men were drunk and were wild and stretched out the attack. And somewhere in the fracas, the men broke poor Carter's back. By the time that sweet Lila Bell woke on her wedding day, Carter's best friend was at her door. His face was ashen gray when he told her that Carter had been hurt by 4 armed men. His nose was broken, and his left eye would not see again. And worst, the blackest consequence of the cruel attack, Carter would forever have a fused and damaged back. The handsome Carter that she loved before could only crawl, and there was little hope he'd ever walk upright at all. The friend had talked to Carter, and Carter had bid him tell fair Lila that their good-night kiss would be their last farewell. He did not expect Lila Bell to share in his new strife, in the shame and cruelty that was now to become his life. Of course, Lila did not accept. That moment, she strode out, meaning to see her love. Sadly, however, she did shout. Her father barred the way and simply would not let her through. He told Lila, "You are my child. I want better for you. Then some poor cripple who can't even stand on his 2 feet. Cry, beg, and pout just as you like, but you'll never more meet. The boy called Carter. You cry now. You'll thank me in the end. I'll introduce you to young men on whom you can depend. In time, you will forget that you ever offered your hand to a creature that should not live, a bloody crooked man. Poor Lila tried. She fought and struggled hard to run away. She climbed down drain pipes and through windows. Every single day, she sought a way to get to Carter and tell him she still loved him despite his awful hurts, loved him and always will. Lila fought as she grew pale and thin. She fought as sickness came. She struggled on through hours of hurt, even while her life's flame grew dimmer. Dimmer. One day, as her father nursed his pride, the angels wept over her head as poor Lila Bell died. As for Carter, he never got the messages she sent, although sending Lila away had been his first intent. On his frail sick bed, every day, he prayed for her to come. He didn't know it was not her wish to leave him alone. Sometimes he raged. Sometimes he sobbed till his poor heart would crack. He cursed the world and Lila Bell and his poor twisted back. Carter was not told of the death of the girl he had loved till after she was laid in earth. Then the good priest was moved to come to him and tell Carter he should try to forgive. That holding rage alongside pain was not a way to live. By then, Carter's love for Lila Bell had turned to black hate. To anyone who would hear, he cried that he blessed the date when the faithless woman had gone on to her just reward. His hate and bitterness within an aching heart he stored. And when, at last, the doctor said that he was fit to go, Carter the hunchback, crooked Carter, hobbled his way home. Carter might well have stayed in bed and slept his life away. He did so in the beginning. He spent 7 full days, drunk to the bone, morose, alone, chilly and shivering, weeping that, without Lila Bell, he should not be living. But on the 8th day, he drew up plans for the house that he had once intended to build for his wife and family. Now that things had changed, Carter no longer planned merrily a house he'd build, not straight and tall but as crooked as he. It would be a house of hatred, as full of wrath as he, as ugly as his tortured body and his eyes milky. A house that would strike terror into any passerby. A house that would draw every gray specter from far and wide to keep company with the man cursed by a faithless chit. It would be a space full of bitterness, he lord of it. And so he did. Poor Carter spent every penny he had to hire local artisans and many little lads to help him construct a labyrinth inside a building so complex that all who entered would never be leaving. When it was done, he bade the workers never to return, unless they wished to lose their lives and, in the darkness, burn. Nobody knows how long Crooked Carter lived on his own, or how many innocents died within his crooked home. But finally, his food box was not being collected. The priest went in to check on him and found poor Carter dead. Carter was laid in Potter's Field, and the years circled on. But the crooked house remained, because Carter was gone. Nobody had the time or right to tear the building down. So they settled on warning all the children in the town to stay away. Most of them did, and those kids were all right. But several teenagers vanished each Halloween night. As for Carter, does he remain to joy in the town's pain? Or did he release this world, knowing that there was no gain in holding on to this domain now Lila Bell was gone? Yes, I could take a guess for you, but I'd likely be wrong. So, if you spot the crooked house at the edge of the road, I'd suggest you are sensible and leave the place alone. And maybe say a prayer that the lovers are safe from harm. Lila and Carter, happy at last in each other's arms. The Calling of the Trees. Stop up your ears, my little ones. Be sure to stop them tight. The sun is afire in the trees, and it is almost night. Sam Hain is here, and though we adults may do as we please, you kids are vulnerable to the calling of the trees. There was a time when Compton Village enjoyed Halloween. when parties filled old Compton Hall and dances on the green made young folks scream and laugh with joy to be alive and free. Soul cakes were traded and eaten. It was a joyful spree. Back then, children roamed graveyards and sang songs to the loved dead. But now, we parents stop your ears and pray for grace instead. It was not long ago that trees spoke only in their sighs, their branches reaching not for blood, but merely for the skies. Your grandparents were babes in arms when Compton saw the thing. The vicious crime, the horror that would make the treetops sing. The girls were the Nairn sisters, and never were there three. Children so fair, so wise and kind. They wandered far and free, born to their mother and father just before Halloween. When the woods glowed red and ochre, and the streams all ran clean. The infants were born one dark night to bring their mothers cheer. And never were three infants so wanted or held so dear. Their father had died months before the lovelies saw the light. But when their mother clasped them close, she clean forgot her plight. For 12 long years, both rain and shine, they were her only care. And though they roamed the fields by day, by evening, they were there, tucked safe into their mother's side to work with her and sing. And by the fireplace, laugh and joke over their sock sewing. Until the night came when their mother waited long past dusk, lamp in the window, breathing in the bitter autumn musk. Until the starlight pricked the sky, people called it a sin, and wondered that the Nairn sisters left her worrying. Soon she was going door to door, weeping in her distress. None could give her news of the girls. No hope came her to bless. Then near midnight, a ruddy glow lit up the forest's heart. Within the hour, a search party was ready to depart. They found the fire before it caught in the surrounding trees. But what lay there within the blaze would bring nobody ease. 3 little bodies, their hands clasped, curled together as one, blackened and withered by the heat. The dousing was begun, but by the time the last flame died, the figures left behind had naught of life and nothing that signified humankind. The howl their mother uttered then tore through the frigid night. She was still young, but by the dawn, her hair had turned stark white. That night was October the 1st, and the whole village mourned. The lives of the 3 fair maids lost, whom nobody had scorned. Mirrors were covered up in black. Girls wept. Men wondered how. The sisters had been cast aflame, and where the fiend was now. Who had stolen the 3 sweet lives? Was he close by them still, seeking more blood and more young flesh to sate his wicked will? They laid the sisters in the earth and clasped their children tight. No longer did the young folk of the village roam the night. Men brought fierce dogs, readied their guns, bolted and barred their doors, and bade their wives not stray from home without an urgent cause. A colder and a sadder place Compton village became. No one could help but shudder when they saw a burning flame. Nonetheless, a full 30 days passed by with nothing new. The murderer took no one else. There was nothing to do but move the wheat into the barns and bring the late fruits in. Then gather by the fires and wait for the winter to begin. Slowly, people began to heal. The hurt cut less deeply. The villagers began to think that one day they'd be free of the ghosts of the murdered girls. But then, on Samhain night, the people looked in horror at the return of the light. The ruddy glow that once before had bloodied the night sky, and now seemed to declare to them that more people must die. This time, it did not keep its place but spread amongst the trees, as a flame might when swept to height by a hot, hellish breeze. And from the upswept fingers of tree branches trembling, came the voices of the 3 murdered sisters whispering. That night, there were no celebrations of the waning year. The young were sent early to bed. The old drank too much beer. Not until all the adults were lost in a slumberous haze did it happen. The thing that marked it as the blackest day Compton had seen. It was then that whispers became a song that called to children, big and small. They all followed along. They wormed through windows and through holes. They unbolted the doors. They crawled over dogs who slept on while they stood on their paws. They followed the sweet singing on to the edge of the trees, and all would have been lost had wakeful parents not heard the pleas. and entreaties hidden in the song. Those parents rushed to see their angels standing on the edge of a great, misty sea. Those who could run snatched their children and rushed them safely home, where mothers wept and swore not to ever leave them alone. But those children with guardians lame or slow or aged by years walked through the mist to the place where the blood-tinged glow appeared. Those who were alive on that day said that the song became a vicious scream that ripped the air, and then the roar of flame rushed over Compton. Every man thought that he'd be consumed, but those who'd walked into the mist were the ones indeed doomed. Their parents found their bodies just as dawn's light touched the ground. The mist had vanished, and no trace of it could now be found. The people had rushed, frantic, scared, to where the sisters died, and found a new pyre with 11 children baked inside. Now, every year, the calling comes when the sisters demand sacrifice through beckoning songs, but you must understand, if you should heed the melody and follow it in turn, to the woods where the sisters wait, it is you who will burn. So, as you love me, stop your ears and do not listen when the sisters' vengeful ghosts beseech you walk the flames with them. For tonight, it is old Sam Hain, and the sky is afire. Stop up your ears, or you will sizzle on the sisters' pyre. Brr. Okay, I admit it, that last story made me shiver. The idea of a song calling to children like a Pied Piper, only to lead them into a raging inferno, well, I know what will be in my nightmares tonight. How about you? Which poem did you find scariest? Do you know any poems more frightening than the ones I have included today? I would love to hear from you. Right, I'm off to run a hot, soapy bubble bath. Nothing can make a candlelit bath scary. Right? As always, I hope you will stay warm and safe, and that if they haunt you, my poems haunt you gently.